you know when it's the right time to change direction?
This is Monday Morning Moxie from the one and only Coach Jennie. Each week, Coach Jennie shares a new challenge designed to help you become more productive, more focused, more decisive, and more confident in every aspect of your life. Not next month, not next year, this week, and every week after that, so you can actually accomplish what matters most to you.
Welcome to my weekly web show, Monday Morning Moxie with Coach Jennie. My name is Jennie Mustafa Julock, in case you missed that. But everybody just calls me Coach Jennie because, that's ridiculous. Smith was taken, I'm just saying. Monday Morning Moxie is my weekly kick in the pants, if you will, direct from me to you, helping you to get further faster so that you can do more of what actually matters to you. So each week I do a little coaching, a little teaching. I'll answer a few questions from the audience that I've gotten previously, but most importantly, I will provide you with a new challenge to consider trying on and experimenting with for the next 7 days. These challenges are designed specifically to let you try a new mindset or maybe a new approach or look at things a little bit differently. Or in today's case, ask yourself a couple new questions that maybe you're not asking before and see if these experiments make a difference for you. For some of you, some of these experiments might, yeah, that's fine. That was nice. And some might actually change your life. I can never predict which is going to sing for which kind of person. So we have to try them on. I hope you enjoy my next experiment. Let's do this. Now, before we get into today's episode, just want to check in on last week's episode. If you missed it, I talked all about my Tackle Your Fears exercise. This is a classic Coach Jennie exercise that I've been using for many, many years because it frickin' works. The idea of Tackle Your Fears is to follow these 7 steps that I've laid out, which is not terribly scary. You can totally memorize these steps just by watching that video, but go through these 7 different steps to think through analytically what you're afraid of and really look at it from a few different angles. You're looking at it from, where you have control and where you have influence. You're looking at it from what's the worst thing that could happen, what's the best thing that could happen. So if you missed that particular episode, I really encourage you to go back and check it out. Again, it's one of the most popular things I've ever taught in my coaching practice. I would love for you to have your hands on that worksheet. But enough about last week. And if you tried on that experiment or any of my experiments, I would love, love, love to hear how they're working for you. Feel free to leave me a comment in any of these YouTube videos. I promise I'm the one that actually responds, or shoot me a DM over on Instagram or Twitter. You can find me at Coach Jennie. So enough about last week. Let's get on with today's episode. Today, I want to talk to you about the ridiculous stigma that is changing your mind. I don't know why we have such a stigma in our society about changing our mind, but we absolutely do. The idea that you haven't figured out what you're going to be when you grow up in kindergarten seems to linger with us for a very long time. I had a conversation with a friend from college just today who said, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up. Spoiler alert, that's not a thing. Let's stop asking children this, shall we? One of my clients, Anna, who's from Sweden. Hi, Anna. Anna shared with me once that in Swedish and in English, when we say change your mind, that's the language we use. Like when we decide differently, we use this language or, make a new decision based on an old decision, right? That's what changing your mind is. We call it changing your mind. But the word in Norwegian, which I don't know what it is, and don't make me try to Google it or say it out loud, forget about it. But what Anna taught me is that in Norwegian, that term actually translates literally into redecide. I love that word so much more. Instead of changing our minds, what if we just redecide? We decide again. We decide differently because, we have new information. I would like to turn redecide into a word that we use all the freaking time because I'm really sick and tired of all of the stigma that's attached to the idea of changing your mind. I've heard so many of my clients over the years, and honestly, I've heard myself and my friends say this as well, that if I change directions, that people might call me flighty or flinty or flaky or something else that starts with flaw. And if you decide to do something and then find out like you freaking hate it and it's not turning out the way that you expected it to, but you feel like I have to keep going it because I don't want to be called a quitter, that's just ridiculous. I am always encouraging my clients to try on experiments, to give it a go. And an experiment, by definition, says, I don't know the outcome. It has no guaranteed of outcomes. I'm experimenting, remember 4th grade science, I'm experimenting to test a hypothesis, which is a guess. Now, it's a educated guess. It's not a wild goose chase kind of guess, but we are experimenting to see, does that guess play out? Is that how it's going to work out? Let's see. Let's find out, shall we? So what we do in an experiment, again, in the fourth grade, is we try things out, we collect a little data, we observe what's happening, we draw some conclusions, and then decide yeah or no or whatever. We come up with some conclusions based on that experiment instead of having it all figured out ahead of time. But again, when we make decisions, we put so much weight on our decisions having to be the right decision that we have to have it all figured out beforehand, because then we're going to commit to it for the rest of time. When I figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up, then I will forever be that thing. How many people do you know that are forever that thing? I don't know any. So this week, what I want to talk to you about is the importance of making sure that whatever you're doing and all the things that you want to do next are truly the things that matter to you. And the way we're going to look at that is to question everything. I want you to question why you're doing all of the things that you do. More specifically, I want to invite you to question all of the things that you've been doing for some time now. And just double check, do we want to continue? Or does something have to change? Sometimes we continue doing things for a long freaking time just because we've done them so long and we don't know any better, or we don't know any different. Or again, we're afraid of what everybody's going to think if we decide to flake out or quit or try something new or come up with a new idea. That's total BS, my friends. The people that I love working with have something I like to call impatient ambition. They want to do some really cool things that really matter to them. They would like to have those results yesterday, if not sooner. My clients want to get further, faster, without any more interruptions and without any more second guessing. So the idea of having permission to redecide sometimes can make people bristle. So let me explain why this is different from second guessing. Because listen up, changing your mind and second guessing yourself might sound like they're cut from the same cloth, but they're actually two completely different beasts. When you change your mind or redecide, I'm going to make that word stick, I really am. It's a conscious choice. It shows that you're adaptable and willing to grow. It shows that you've actually got the guts to revisit your beliefs and revisit your decisions when you get more information or new insights come your way. That's called wisdom, my friends. Redeciding is all about being flexible and learning as you go, and also allowing yourself to have new ambitions. People who redecide are the people who are evolving. But second guessing yourself, now that's a whole nother story. Second guessing yourself is all about doubt and uncertainty. And Hilda, that voice that lives in the back of your head, who's trying to get you to question your abilities to tackle something. Question whether or not you're good enough, or whether or not you should want this, or it's allowable to want this, or what everybody else is going to think about it. Because second guessing comes from that place of doubt and insecurity. I want you to be able to make your choices and make new decisions based on new information. And I'm going to share with you a couple of questions that can really help you think through that. Again, I'm all about thinking through, not just feeling through, but thinking through whether or not it's time to redecide, and not make all of your decisions based on fear or self-doubt. But if you get nothing else from today's video, I really hope that I can bring this home to you. You reserve the right to redecide. Say it with me. You reserve the right to redecide, and you don't need permission. You don't need a reason. You don't need any kind of explanation to redecide something. Now, how do you decide that it's time to redecide? Well, when I'm deciding whether or not it's time for me to change directions, I like to ask myself two very clear questions. They're very simple, they're very clean, they're very easy, and they're very potent. Is it working? And do I love it? Now, I know on the surface that doesn't sound terribly profound, but go with me on this. The answers to those two questions are all you need to determine whether you want to make a change or whether something's got to give. Is it working? And do I love it? Now, one of the reasons that this is so powerful is because the first question actually requires you to have some semblance of knowledge of what it means to know whether or not something is working. And believe it or not, this is a bigger deal than you would think. A lot of people set out to do things without actually asking themselves, how will I know whether or not this is, successful? How will I know whether or not I'm actually moving towards what I want to have happen? Far too often, I see people doing things because, well, everybody else is doing that thing, or because it comes easy to me, it's natural to me, so it just kind of makes sense. This is when you kind of fall into different career paths or different choices or lifestyle choices or places that you live, or different ways that you approach problems. And just doing a bunch of activities without checking to see, does it actually work towards something, towards some sort of goal, toward something that actually matters to you, means that you're just staying busy. And busy for busyness sake is not a badge of honor I really think that anybody wants. And yet a lot of us busy ourselves with a lot of activity that doesn't add up to, who we want to be and how we want to roll. So by asking yourself, is this working? And just making sure you know what the heck that would mean to, is this thing working? Is making sure that you're actually doing something that moves the needle towards what you want to make happen in this world. And you deserve nothing less. So as an example, I like to pick on podcasting. Everyone and their brother and sister has a podcast these days. Am I right? And don't hate me because 100 TV is totally turning the show into a podcast. So I'm about to have a podcast too. And the truth is, there are tons and tons of people, including myself once upon a time, who start podcasts because, well, that's the new thing. That's the new exciting tool of the day. Or maybe it's TikToks or whatever. You can fill in the blank for anything. But we do these things because, podcasting sounds great. Everybody loves them. I don't even have to do my hair. But when you start a podcast, how are you going to measure whether or not it's working? And is it working for you? Not is it working in the sense of podcast land? Quick sidebar. Once upon a time, I had a podcast. I know, I'm one of those too. And my podcast name was Roller Derby for the Soul because, had to poke at chicken soup or something. I did 5 daily shows a week for over a year and a half on Roller Derby for the Soul. And it was pretty fun. I was pretty good at it. They were really short and pithy and fun and very Coach Jennie. And I got something like 500,000 downloads, whatever the hell that means. But like 500,000 people had downloaded, or maybe not 500,000 people, but 500,000 episodes had been downloaded to some iPod or machine somewhere. Oh, and sometimes some of my clients or friends would say, hey, I heard your podcast the other day and I really liked it. But despite all that, it wasn't actually working for me. I set out to do that podcast to, actually grow my business. That was the measure of success, to have new clients pay me real money. And instead, forgive me, but I was giving away a lot of my genius and spending a lot of time packaging these perfect little podcasts and making sure they went out every single freaking day to mostly freebie zombies, people who like to sign up for all of the free things and enjoy participating in all the free challenges and free episodes and all the free stuff, but never actually, implement or invest in themselves. And yeah, my podcast was also entertaining people who already loved me, but that wasn't growing my business either. I realized by asking myself, is this working for me? I was able to see it was not a good use of my time, even if it was fun. So I called it quits and moved on to a new experiment. That's why making sure that you know what the heck working is for every different thing you're doing is so important. Doesn't mean it has to be super mathy and fit into a spreadsheet, but is it actually moving the needle towards what you want to make happen in the world? The truth is, you don't need a spreadsheet to know the answer to that question. Now, before you jump all over me, you got to give it a little bit of time. You can't decide something worked or didn't work right out of the gate. That's called perfectionism. I also have that perfectionism trait where I want everything I do to excel straight out of the gate. I want to publish a book and hit go on Amazon and just watch all the riches come. And that has not been my experience yet. It's coming, right? I've actually seen entrepreneurs make this mistake over and over again, where they will spend 6 months in the back cave working really, really hard on their next big thing, that new course or project or website or whatever the heck. Maybe it's a podcast. I don't know why we're picking on podcasts so much today, but why not? And they spend all this time and energy like coming up with this amazing thing. And then they go out and put it to market because they haven't told anybody they were doing this. And they put it to market and it doesn't sell right away. And they posted like 3 whole times on Facebook, 3 whole times. So yes, we need to know what working looks like, but we also need to give it a decent runway so that we can see whether or not we can get some, traction and find out whether or not it's going to work in a longer term. Case in point, this show, I like to do meta. If this show meets my definition of working in the next 6 months and I still love it, then I will keep going. But if it's not working, then I will make some adjustments or decide to redecide. But I really feel like I need to give it a full 6 months to make that decision. So when I say, is it working? I'm not saying right out of the gate. I'm saying, is it working within a reasonable amount of time and effort? That's really the key. We want to make a commitment to the experiment to make sure that we have enough time, enough runway to gain that traction. So in this case, 6 months, I feel like is going to give me enough information to make a full determination. Now, let's talk about the other question. Is it working? And do I love it? Now, when I've offered these questions up to people in the past, I have gotten a lot of pushback on the word love. And I want to be very, very clear. I know that we do not love every aspect of our work. We do not love every aspect of every dream. As the author Mark Manson likes to say, every dream comes with a shit sandwich on the side. The shit we have to tolerate in order to have that dream. Like living the dream of an Airstream literally comes with a sewer hose that I have to deal with. But don't you think we should at least attempt to love the things that we're spending all of our blood, sweat, and tears building and creating? I certainly do. So again, we're not going to love every aspect of things, but we're talking about the things that matter most to you. And if these are the things that matter most to you, you better believe it that you want to be in love with it. You want to feel like, oh, I just love that I have the opportunity to do this thing. I love that I have the opportunity to spend my time here. I love that I have the opportunity to be in this relationship. I love that I have these opportunities to see these different experiences. Whatever it is, I want you to love it. You deserve that. So if the answer to the question of do I love it to everything you're spending your time on this week is not so much, girl, we got to do something about that. All right. So now let's talk about this in practical sense. You ask yourself these two questions by questioning everything. Just look at one of the projects, one of the tasks, one of the activities that you spend an awful lot of your time on, that you're giving a lot of energy to, and ask yourself, is it working? And do I love it? If the answer is hell yes and hell yes, then double down, my friends. If you find an activity, there's something that you're so into, like, I don't know, pickleball seems to be a thing everybody's into, which I haven't even tried yet, but I have a feeling I would be obsessed with it. If you're saying, hell yes, it's working, hell yes, I love it, then go on with your bad self and double down with your pickleball league. Conversely, if you ask yourself, is it working and do I love it? And the answer is hell no and certainly not. What the hell are you doing? It's time to let that go. It's time to let that give. It's time to do something dramatic about that. That to me sounds very toxic. And there's so many things that we do because we've done them for so freaking long and we're the only ones that can do it this way and all of the excuses. The truth is these two questions are going to really make you face facts. It ain't working for you and you don't love it. It doesn't belong in your life. Let's do something about that. But what do you do if it's working, but you don't really love it so much anymore? That's where things get a little murkier. Am I right? I would ask yourself, what's got to change? Are there some things that you could do, different ways to approach it, different ways to kind of like gloss it up and fall back in love with this activity? Or has that ship sailed? Are you honestly just no longer passionate about this? Maybe you've just been at it too long. And even though it's working really, really well, maybe it's lost its luster and it's no longer for you. And that's okay too. Because again, you reserve the right to redecide. But what if it's not working, but you freaking love it? Well, that's an invitation to get into problem solving mode. Again, when you have like that mixture, something's got to change. But that doesn't mean you have to throw it out. It just means it's not working yet. So do you want to give it more energy because you freaking love it? Sounds like you do. Let's figure out how you can go into problem solving mode and figure out a way to make it work better. Now, you can use these questions for the big, big things in your life or even the smallest little things. If this whole idea of trying to use these questions for kind of big activities and big commitments that you're in is overwhelming to you, start with something small. One of my favorite ways to kind of enter this activity and kind of practice it a little bit is to just look at it and ask yourself, is it working or do I love it? Per different social media platform. So take Facebook, for example. Is it working? Do you love it? Twitter. Is it working? Do you love it? YouTube. Is it working for you? Do you love it? Those questions can really help you just discern what you want to do about these things. So here is your challenge if you choose to accept it. For the next 7 days, I invite you to re-examine all of the different things and activities that you're pouring your heart and soul into and run them through these two important questions. Is it working? And do I love it? And if you've been at it for some time, consider asking yourself, is it still working? Or do I still love it? And based on your honest gut reactions, those immediate responses that you get to your gut, decide what's got to change and what's got to give. Where do you want to double down and where do you want to move on? Now, again, I want to emphasize, I know that this seems too simple, but I love the fact that it is simple because simple questions are elegant solutions for getting us out of our head. Because otherwise you would go and spend a whole I don't know, day and a half hanging out with Chat GPT, or maybe writing a pros and cons list and polling a bunch of other strangers who don't really have any business making your decisions for you because you're afraid that you're not allowed to redecide. And again, as I've said many times in this video, and hopefully it's coming through, you reserve the right to redecide. This is your life. You never have to grow up. You never have to have it all figured out. You're just going to tackle it one experiment at a time. Just ask yourself these two questions and let's see what happens next.
Hello, Meredith here, CEO and wife of Coach Jennie, for another round of Ask the Coach Anything. All right, Coach Jennie, ready? You know the drill. Here we go. Missy from Texas wants to know, how do we know what our purpose is? Woo, that's a big one, Missy. All right, hit it, Coach Jennie.
Oh, Missy, I am so glad that you asked this question because I know it's on the minds of a lot of people, and I'm here to take it out of your mind because the eternal quest for our purpose, yeah, I'm not a fan. Searching for your grand purpose or searching for what your one passion is like chasing a bunch of unicorns wearing stilettos. I believe, and I know you know this in your gut, that we are multifaceted, multi-talented, multi-potentialite human beings who do not need to get boxed into finding some perfect soul purpose. It's not a thing. It's not a thing for most people. In fact, I would argue it's not a thing for anybody. It's a marketing thing that a lot of people will tell you. They'll tell you, I have found my one purpose, my one true thing. It's not a thing. The truth is, we are always just figuring out our next big thing, the next project that we want. So instead of fixating on your elusive purpose or your elusive passion, I encourage you to focus on what are the problems you're itching to solve, or what are the messages you're eager to share with the world. In my never humble opinion, life is about that. Life is about solving problems, challenging ideas, and really sharing what's in your heart, what you have to say in this world, making your stamp and leaving a legacy. And that legacy is not some one-size-fits-all purpose that you can put into a cute little box. I really appreciate you asking this question, though, because so many people are spending, I'll even say it, wasting a ton of time and a ton of audible credits trying to figure out what their perfect purpose, their perfect passion is supposed to be. So then they'll know what they're supposed to be when they grow up. Like I said earlier in this video, there's no such thing as a right choice. It's not a thing. So let's let it go. And instead, figure out what's next for you.
Janice from Virginia has a really interesting question. How do you balance the fun of exploring with all of the responsibilities of coaching?
Oh, Janice, love this question. Very important one. This is still relatively new. Meredith and I are still kind of building this plane while we're flying it, which I talked about in a previous episode, just saying. This is a real challenge for us because now we're living this airstream, traveling all over the North American continent, wherever the heck we want to go. Frankly, wherever we think it's going to be about 65 degrees, that's where we want to be. And we're bumping into all of these amazing, beautiful places that we want to explore. But we are not on vacation. And sometimes we kind of could forget that because we're hanging out in a campground filled with people who are mostly retired or on vacation. And we have Zoom calls and coaching sessions that we have to be on. It can be very easy to get distracted and just want to spend our time exploring because we have location independence and time freedom and all the things that you're supposed to want. But we also have a coaching empire to grow. So honestly, the way that we're balancing it is by walking our own talk. We are using our Make It Happen method to make sure that we are crossing the very important finish lines each and every day, each and every week that we know are going to move the needle towards where we want to go in our business and frankly, in our lives. Part of the Make It Happen method is making sure that what you're committing to each week is reasonable given what you have going on that week. So on a week where we have a lot of freaking travel, we of course have to make some accommodations for that. We have to make sure that we're leaving enough brain space and white space in our calendars to reasonably handle this kind of a travel schedule. And then conversely, when we are staying put for a while, like we are right now, we're going to be hanging out here in South Lake Tahoe for 3 weeks. I'm going to be able to get so much more meaty, heavier, deep work done because I have a little less travel and distractions going on. That said, I'm not going to miss out on seeing beautiful Lake Tahoe. So balancing these two things is something that we do by making sure that we're looking at it 1 week at a time. And the Make It Happen method, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you, is our system for exactly that, by approaching your productivity 1 week at a time, because not all weeks are created equal. So if you're interested in learning more about that, go to coachjennie.com and learn more about the Make It Happen method. We are not just the people who created that program, but that is our lifeline to making sure that we're living a life and enjoying the heck out of this amazing Airstream adventure, but also growing our coaching empire in the way that we want to grow it.
Desiree from Nevada wants to know, what is one topic in the coaching industry that drives you batty?
Oh, Desiree, how much time you got? I've been sitting with your question for a while, and I think the one, if I was going to pick one, that pisses me off the most, it's this very coachy concept that I hear almost every coach alive say, which is you have to charge what you're worth. Does it get any cringier than that? I am not for sale. I am charging what my services are worth, and what my services are worth based on a lot of different things, but not based on my self-worth as a human being. When you start wrapping and tangling your self-worth with your pricing, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster, because then you're going to get into all of this comparing and, well, how many years have I been in this and how much am I allowed to? You make yourself crazy. So we can make ourselves absolutely crazy by trying to figure out where we are in the pecking order when we start saying, okay, this is what I'm worth, and I want to make sure that I'm pricing based on my worth. I think those two things need to be untangled. And when coaches talk about that and they think you have a mindset problem because you're a low ticket coach or something like that, it is pure gaslighting, and it's everybody speaking from the same freaking microphone. And I wish we would all stop drinking that Kool-Aid. I like to price myself above the bar of resentment and below the point where I can't sleep at night. That's my window. And that changes and evolves for me, because as I get better at this work, my prices go up, as they should. Because again, my prices are based on the service I'm providing. I'm not pricing the human behind it.
All right, there you have it. That wraps another round of Ask the Coach Anything. If you want to have your question featured, go ahead and leave a comment below or DM Jennie on Instagram at Coach Jennie. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, Meredith. Oh my gosh, that was such a fun episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope that you're starting to get a sense of what you can expect from the Monday Morning Moxie and getting a sense of who I am and what I'm all about. And hopefully what I'm doing is challenging your thinking so that you question everything. You know, thinking about some of the questions I just answered from the Ask Me Anything makes me think about how important it is to question everything and to make it work for you. That is about being a little selfish. I think selfish is a positive word. Being a little selfish and really determining, you know what, this is what works for me. This is what I love. I deserve a life filled with mostly things that are working that I love. Don't you? I think we all absolutely do. So again, your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to just give this some practice. I would love to hear what you think and what kind of comes up for you as you're experimenting with this or any of my experiments. Drop a comment in underneath one of these videos, or if you want to talk to me more privately, feel free to send me a DM over on Twitter or on Instagram. I check them all the time at Coach Jennie. That is all I have for you today. Let's get on with the bloopers, and I'll see you next week for Monday Morning Moxie. I'm going to have fewer bloopers because I'm doing pretty well. I'm on a roll. I'm a little punchy. Leave a comment and let me know how it went, or shoot me a DM over on Twitter. Or blah. Literally, they would like to get further and faster as soon as humanly possible. What?
What else? That's it. So almost finished. My part is so quick.
Because changing your mind and second guessing might sound. That's not a word.
Next up, we have Desiree from Nevada.
Nevada.
As soon as it came out of my mouth.
I don't want to get dinged.
We don't want to get in trouble with Desiree.
Nevada.
Nevada. Okay. Sorry, Desiree.
But damn it, don't you think that... Why am I saying damn it?
Sadie, say hello to YouTube.
Hello,
Hello, YouTube. No? You want to say hello to YouTube?
Now, again, I know this isn't super serious, data, scientific-y. What? Do that again. Little less game show.
Little less. Why do I always do that? Behind door number 3.
I don't know. You weren't.
Maybe you should be a game show host.
No, you should be CEO of Coach Jennie.
I should be CEO of Coach Jennie.
Yeah,
okay.
You just got the job.
All right. But I'm 2 years in. Maybe it's time to like explore my option. No, okay.
Do you like it?
Is
it working?
I love it. Yes and yes.
Okay, thank God.
So time to go all in, even
Correct.
deeper. Yes.
Correct. You
I'm
were listening. Okay.
That's a wrap.